Afternoon, dear viewers, and happy Sunday to everyone. Today is the 7th day of December 2025, and we will be bringing you some of the update of what is happening in our community organization, especially like LECDA USA, which is the umbrella organization here in the US that oversees the activities of all the fandom, and those activities stay in Lebialem. And of course, you will recall that last May, it was USA Grand Convention, which was a lot of discussion took place in Arizona. There was a discussion about the Paradise Vision, how what will the BLM look like in 25 years from now. And after that convention, I think the CEO and the communication team deliver or publish a resolution, but after that, we have not heard so much from the executive or from the leadership of LECDA USA. And recently, we saw a communique that the the CEO released a communique that they are offering up to 4,000 US dollars. That is about some 2 million francs CFA to each fandom for educational grant or for educational project. So we like to bring him in here to for him to substantiate, because when I look at that document, it seems to be very there were some very restriction, or it was well crafted, the requirement to meet. We will discuss all of that. But before then, let me see if I can bring in the CEO so that we can dive into some of the discussion here. Mr. CEO, and happy Sunday and good afternoon and welcome to Gaza Media.
Uh, Good afternoon, Director. Always a pleasure to be on your platform to talk to the wonderful people of the DLM.
Yes, yes, CEO, it's been probably almost like, I believe, almost getting to about 6 months since the last convention in Tucson, Arizona, in your own state, in your own city. So, what has been going on that there's so much silence up to now when we saw this giant step releasing a project? But I would just want to ask you what has been going on so far. Can you update the membership and the stakeholder?
Yes, Director, thank you. Again, I want to thank the BLM people, especially those who contributed in one way or the other towards the success of the last convention. We had a very sound resolution from the Arizona Convention. And after the convention, there were a lot of follow up that had to be done back home. Especially, we were looking forward to having a workshop because the convention was focused on achieving a BLM paradise. And, the goal was to pull all the BLM sons and daughters wherever they are so we can sit on the table and have a common goal on how to rebuild the BLM. But as you know, after the convention, we had the elections were coming from Cameroon. We had presidential elections in Cameroon, and that preoccupied almost every stakeholder in the BLM, from the funds, the elite, and even even the local leadership. So it was very difficult at the level of the board to proceed with the resolutions because, again, because of the unpredictability. Even to think about carrying a project in Cameroon, we had to put everything on hold until the presidential election come and pass before we figure out a way forward. Which the presidential election came, and you and I, it's an open secret out there. It came with its own challenges. The list that came from the BLM with names, kind of still controversy and anger, and people are writing out there. But a couple of people reached out to me. They were frustrated, but one thing we must know is that there is no good reason for doing the right thing, for doing the wrong thing. There's no good reason for doing the wrong thing, and the wrong thing here would be to give up on the BLM. No matter how angry people are, we still have to look for a way to move forward, because that is our division, that is our motherland, that is our pride, and we cannot give up on the BLM. So recently, one of the challenges, Lebialem currently has a lot of challenges, but one of the challenges that we have is the fact that there have been no serious education in Lebialem for the past 9 years. We found it necessary that the first step towards achieving the BRM paradise, which is a very long journey, and we are going to move one step at a time towards that, is to see how we look at the BLM in general and see how we strengthen in our own little way education in the BLM. So that is why we sat at the level of the board. I voted a budget, and then I sent out the communication that I did for the fundoms to kind of convene and look at what they already have and see where LECDA can come in, and we give that little support of 2
Yes,
million approximately um, to every fundum base that qualifies. It is not, I must say here that that is not some money that has been voted and put in envelope, sitting somewhere for the fundum presidents to come and pick them up. They are qualifying circumstances for a fundum to be able to get this grant from LEGDA USA. And again, uh, after that silence, that we feel like it's time to get to work and continue
yes,
to.
yes, Mr. CEO, yes, I'm glad that you almost answered for one of my first part of the question, which was about why choose education, which I think you have explained. But if I may want to ask you, what impact do you expect this grant to produce in terms of education? Saying you choose education, what do you envision that this grant, if succeeded, or any of that project?
Yes. So, director, when you look at the BLM, there is this exodus. At first, they used to attribute it solely to insecurity, you know. But now, in some fandoms in the BLM, people are not able to go home not because of insecurity, but because the schools there are not functioning, and so they are still forced to stay out of the BLM in an environment that they are not comfortable with because they want their children to have an opportunity to go to school. And so across the BLM, every effort to support education and get the children and the parents go back and have a place where they can go and have that education is worth pursuing. And so the immediate impact that we are thinking of is not just the education of the children of the BLM, but it will also help to pull people back home to their comfort zone, to pull them out of that stress. And this undoubtedly is going to also affect performance because when the children they come back, they are sleeping in their houses, the environment is comfortable. You and I will be into school, and then you can now sit and focus on your education and grow professionally. So that is what we are all looking up to.
Okay. Yes, Mr. CEO, thank you for that. Can you maybe clarify this? I think on the press release or on the release of the fund, you mentioned that the fundum, you gave certain criteria that the fundum will be the one to apply, but at the same time, you may the executive, your executive, may not write a check direct to the fundum. You may have to implement the project. Like that, USA may have to implement the project. Okay, can you explain the differences or what you really mean by this? Because it seems a little bit confusing.
Yes, director. Uh, Before being the CEO today, I have been a chief financial officer of LECDA USA. I work under Professor Ndemanu. We did carry a couple of projects back in Cameroon. Trust me, it's very difficult to get people accountable when you just summarily write a check and say, go do this, and then come and give us documentation. And you know, LECDA USA is a 501c sub 3 organization. We file taxes and we can be audited. And so we need documentation to show there should be we should have a track financial track record of all our finances. And if you write a check and give to somebody, the person goes and then they are not ready to give you any accountability, it becomes very challenging and they can put us in trouble. So when we do this, when you look at the way the questions are framed, if it is possible and we identify a project, if it is possible with LECDA USA, we are going to come in and complete that project and hand it over. And if we are doing that, it means all the documentation and everything that we need to justify that expenditure, not just to the IROS, but to the rest of the BLM public who contributed this money, will be able to secure that will be able to secure the documentation that we need to prove that the money was well and judiciously spent.
So, are you saying at some time you may need to hire your own agent, like maybe project monitor or project manager that will be based in Cameroon, that maybe will be able to work on your own behalf, have be like your own eye in this situation?
Correct. Correct. We have the last board meeting before the end of this year, and that will be discussed at the level of the board. It is always important to have an independent agent back home that will represent LECDA USA to follow through with some of these projects. And the result, I will say it here. I'm also looking at the possibility because they are qualifying, like I said, they are qualifying event for a fandom to be able to benefit from this money. And we are looking at the possibility where we can actually ask them to submit, if let's say all the $4,000 is approved for a fandom, we don't just write a check. We can ask that fandom to go, okay, there is money here, but go, they have money in their coffers. Implement this project, show proof of implementation, and then we go ahead and disburse the money to you. Remember, we don't have independent contractors. We don't even have enough personnel at the level of the board to be calling people and running around. But I can trust you, every fandom within that fandom, they know individuals that they can trust. They can use their own sons and daughters in any field that they have identified to complete this project. And I don't think it is bad if you come up, let's say Lekudo comes to LEGDA USA, we approve $4,000 to do, it might be solar panels. I'm just throwing this out there. I will say that amount is approved. They can go ahead, get a technician, execute that. Gaza Media is there, our representative is there. They can complete that project. We come there, confirm that everything has been
Done.
the project has been completed and it is standard. Once that information is sent to us, we write a check for $4,000 and give to them. It is more convenient doing it this way than to write a check of 4,000 and say, Lekudo take. You come back and tell us how you use that money. Trust me, I have been the CF, I've been in this position since 2018, working with LEGDA USA, and you give people $500 and it is her to even get an acknowledgement letter. Talk less of them coming back to show you how the money was spent.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Mr. C. Oh, yes. I think that seemed to clarify the air. Now, in terms of this, if you have to hire, say, an independent contractor, somebody, or an independent project manager who will work on behalf of LEGDA, then you are also looking at, say, you may giving some remuneration. Then you want to work on the timeline so that you don't keep that person on the payroll, quote unquote, to lack of a better word, for a very long time. So, what would be a timeline for any of the fandom if one identify that project to be executed? Because I know you have already set a timeline for when application for grants should be submitted, which is end of this month, December. So, when do you think, if approved, the project should be executed? Do you have a timeline?
Director, now this is different. We are not saying submit a project for us to go raise funds that we don't know when the funds will come in. No, we already have the money. You know, already have the money sitting there at the board to invest across the BLM. So by December 31st, if we have a project that meets all the specifications, in that communication that I sent out, we are going to say, okay, let's go ahead and implement. And so the timeline is not going to be defined by LECDA USA. Like I said, if we put the implementation, remember on that form, we specifically ask, what role will you play? What resources do you have to support the implementation of this project that you're submitting to us? Because what we have as we speak is just the money. We do not have a technical team in place that will go do that. And so a fundum that submit a project alongside a technical team that can help us implement that project, I can tell you that before the end of January 2026, theirs will be completed. But if you submit a project that you are not there to assist us in any way, then that project can take even 2 3 months. But the implementation will be defined by the fundums because we have to rely on them to achieve that. We don't have a technical team. So I cannot give you a definite response or a definite timeline because it is going to be it's going to depend on the readiness of the fundums to support us
Yes,
and the kind
I'm
of
glad that.
project.
No, I'm also glad that most of these Fundum CEOs or president, they are all board members of
Correct.
LECDA USA, which they will also, I believe, they will also facilitate because I believe they will be sitting on the board. They are the one making a decision, and they should be able to follow through. Yeah, yeah, because you were saying that submission. I'm reading from this statement that you say uh, submission does not guarantee award or application will be reviewed by the board of trustee. So you are saying that the fact that somebody submit an application, it doesn't mean that the 40 the 4,000 or the 2 million is ready for them to pick up.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are qualifying events. I talk about participation. You know, participation is going to affect how much is granted to a funder. When I talk about participation, I'm talking about participation in LECDA USA activities. I'm talking about involvement in LECDA life, you know, which is the solidarity group owned by LECDA USA. I'm talking about the project itself. If you go and we're talking about education, if you go and put on paper something that doesn't make sense, just looking at it, like I said, it's not like we have money lying there and we're just looking for somewhere to give. It has to make sense. The project itself has to make sense. And the sense I'm talking of, you have to be able to show the impact of what you're asking on the lives of the people, of the students. I don't think if you come and you just I don't know how to say it, but if you go get the form that I designed, if you go there and just put anything on paper because you feel like you want to submit before the 31st, and then some looking at it, the board look at it and it doesn't make sense, we're not just going to say, oh, the way they have submitted, let's just give them the money. No, the project has to make sense. And you have to demonstrate. For you to get all the 4,000, you have to check every box. You must be a fundum that has been actively involved in LECDA USA activities. The project must make sense. You have to show us that you are also there to provide us with some resources that will help us to achieve it, among other things. And to conclude here, I know a couple of people called me and said this timeline is so short, but you mentioned earlier that the fundum presidents are already the members of the board. The board of LECDA USA is comprised of the chapter and all the fundum presidents. So we've been discussing this project at the level of the board for several months. So the communication is for public consumption, but those fundum presidents who are actively involved, they already know that this was they had knowledge that this was coming up, and I believe they were preparing accordingly.
Okay, CEO, thank you so much for taking the time to at least to brief the public for this. And I hope that the funding will take an advantage and get on board and maybe get themselves together and grab this and help develop their people at home.
Yeah, and director, again, there is no way you can be transparent. There is no better way than putting things out here. We put the project out in public. When we select the project, we're also going to make them public. You know, the Cameroon being what it is, or the BLM being what it is, people are just so dishonest that we don't want somebody to come and submit a project that some other person is sponsoring somewhere. We know our people, and so the best way to put the guardrails against that is to get the project and amplify it, put it in the public. If somebody is submitting a project that somebody is already, or a body or an individual is sponsoring somewhere, if you put it out there, there will be, you give people the opportunity to look at it and ask questions that, oh, LECDA USA is sponsoring the project, and why are you taking that money? So everything we do from now moving forward is going to be out there. There is no secrecy in it. It has to be out there to help us with accountability.
Yes. Yeah, see you. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Director. Always a pleasure. And thank you to Gaza Media for
Yeah.
everything.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, dear viewers. That was it for this announcement and for this brief news update coming from the CEO of LECDA USA, Lebialem Culture and Development Association, that they have launched this grant project money, 4,000 US dollar, equivalent to about some 2 million francs CFA, to execute a project that will help education sector in the BLM. So I'm urging all the BLM people, especially those in the US, to get to their president, to get to their fandom CEOs or their fandom president. To if they are not thinking about it, then it's time for them to get on board. Those that are in the educator sector can help their CEO, can help their president or the leadership of their fandom organization so that they can craft up and look at what this project money can do for those education that has been abandoned for the past 8 years. And I hope we'll make a significant impact. Until then, we'll see you next time. And bye bye for now.